Josh here from Nine. I guess just to start with, have you guys come to a decision on how many players are going to be taken to the Gold Coast yet?
That's a good question. Yeah, we're looking to take everyone, but we still haven't quite finalised the protocols and the parameters around the travel. So, in respect to the players and their families and their situations, we're still yet to get a definitive answer from all the players. But at this stage, it looks like most, if not all, will be travelling.
Michael Ramsey from AAB. The request for additional staff that I think both the Eagles and Dockers are making. Have you had any feedback on that yet? And are you expecting that to be granted, the ability to take a few extra staff over?
Look, I think what the AFL have done in recent weeks is that they've been pretty pragmatic about some of the things we need to do. So obviously travelling a group of 70 people requires potentially a bit more staff and a bit more organisation. So I think it's more likely than unlikely we'll get 3 or 4 more staff members to help us out, just with logistics more than anything. So waiting on the final call on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we've got a few more staff, and in particular if players have to stay back due to injury or operations, and we have to split the list up. We're going to need more staff. So it's a pretty obvious decision, I think, and I think the AFL agree.
2 contact sessions now as a group. How are the boys pulling up, and how are they finding building back towards the first game back?
Yeah, I thought the first week they looked like they could play straight away. I was pretty buoyant about how they were feeling, but they pulled up a bit sore after the first contact session on Tuesday, but not sore enough not to back it up today. So we had a really good hit out today. We probably played 50 or 60 minutes of football, and they got through. They were obviously tired towards the end, but touch wood, no significant injuries from today, but we'll have to wait and see how they pull up tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure they're going to pull up sore from what they did.
Timo, I noticed Mark Hutchings today wasn't taking part in the match simulation, was sort of on some pretty light duties on the back oval. Any reason for that? Is he sort of struggling with anything at the moment?
Yeah, look, he's had a small procedure around his knee, nothing too significant, but it didn't fix itself with rest, so we cleaned it up. He'll be probably another 3 or 4 weeks before he gets back into full training. So he's probably the only one we've got that it looks like he's going to be a while before he comes back. So yeah, he's through rehab at the moment, but he'll still travel.
I was just going to ask just about Jared Brander. He seems to have had a decent pre-season, and when you came back from the break, he was in a group of Nick Nat, Shuey, Yo, Gaff and Kelly. You must have high hopes for him this year. What are you expecting from him? Yeah,
look, he's a third-year player, I think. Come off a significant injury last year. We've trained him up as high half forward or on the wing, so that's where he played round 1. So yeah, nothing much changed in that break. He was in the senior side, so we started that last week. He was pretty much in the group that he played with. So yeah, that's not to say his position's a lock, but there hasn't been too many opportunities to get out of the side in the last 8 weeks, so he hasn't trained himself out of it yet either.
Adam, Adrian Barrage, Will Schofield said last night that he may not go to the Gold Coast. Could you comment on his situation, and do you have any other players in a similar situation where they may not go?
Yeah, look, that's what I spoke about before, Barrett. It's up to the individual and their personal circumstances. We've got lots of players with young children, and I know it sounds like just get on with it and get over there and play, but everyone's got a different situation, including staff. So to organise, and I've asked any one of you guys to pack up and leave for 5 or 6 weeks. There's a fair bit of organising you got to do, and that's obviously with your family, but also financially how you sit and what you've got going outside the club. And someone like Will, who he's got to weigh those things up. So he's a young family, and we respect that, and there's no pressure to do anything other than he needs to do for his family. So he'll weigh that up, and when the time's right, he'll tell me.
Is there any way you can help him financially, Adam? It sounds like he'd be losing money basically if he had to go to the Gold Coast, which is quite extraordinary.
Well, I think we've spoken about this before, Barry. I don't think he's alone. I don't know his personal circumstances, and I don't think he'd like me to be talking about it. But there's lots of players on every list who, they're playing for half their wage, and their wage to start with wasn't one that we all think AFL footballers are on. So, they've got to weigh that up. We all want to play footy. We all say we play for free, but when you do have bills to pay and mortgages and life, they're no different than anyone else in the community. So that is just a pragmatic approach. What's best from a family. We think everyone's going to be right and right to go, and they'll be able to get through it, but they've got to work through it themselves, and we'll back them in whatever they do.
Is there a chance someone like Will could maybe stay over in the west for a little while and then go over east when required and if required? And is that something you consider?
Oh, look, I don't know how easy or hard it's going to be to just jump on a plane and get to the Gold Coast. The quarantine laws in both states are pretty strict. The exemptions we've got have been, we're very grateful for Queensland letting us play there, but I'm not sure you can just book a flight and come over whenever you want. So we've got to get a charter flight. I think it's a separate one than Fremantle have, so we'll have a plane to ourselves, but there's 70 of us, and to get in and out of the state, it's going to be quite difficult. So that's part of the process the AFL are working through at the moment. It's just a huge task in front of them logistically to get this organised, and I think all 4 clubs are doing their bit to help out. But doing things on a whim is going to be pretty difficult. So we'll have to plan everything.
Hello, Mitch from the West again. Oscar Allen had a bit of a pre-season, but looks to be flying at the moment. How's he progressing, and is he a chance to back up Nick Nat and the Ruck?
Yeah, look, that's one of the spots that we're working through. You're right, he's going quite well, and today, probably his best session. He's only been back for a week, but he was good today. He was just chasing the clock a little bit going into round 1. So he's the one player. We've got a number of players who really benefited from the extra 8 weeks of pre-season, and I think across the competition you're going to see pretty healthy lists to begin with. There'll be a few injuries here and there, but he's one of those players that's he's had a really good base in the last 8 weeks, and he's ready to go. So he's in the mix with probably 4 or 5 options really, with Vardy, Hickey, Oscar. Bailey Williams was going pretty well until he hurt his hamstring. So that second ruck position, obviously Hickey held that round 1, but that's the one that's probably up for grabs, and he knows that.
Has it helped guys like Barras and Gov as well when you talk about having those extra weeks? Obviously they had some pre-season sort of surgeries and played round 1, but how much has it benefited them? Because all the talk is that how good they're looking. Obviously Kennedy, another one flying today in the match team. How much has the break helped them in terms of their preparations? Yeah,
well, time will tell. But the question marks that we had about are they, missed a chunk of pre-season, are they going to be underdone? And our S&C guys will tell us they're always high risk, the players who miss out on pre-season. So they've built a bit of resilience in their bodies. And I think JK before the break was had a really good pre-season. I think everyone's getting excited about where JK was at, but he's been really consistent over the break. And Gov and Tom Barras and the guys who might have been a bit unders going into round 1, that no doubt that's helped them in the last 8 weeks. They were looking pretty good, Nick. They're just got to get match fit now.
I was just wondering about the shorter quarters. I'm sure you spoke about it before, but now that they've said that this is going to roll through the season, what's the reasoning that you've got for that? Is that simply player welfare? Because obviously at the start of the season they were talking about maybe rolling games through and having shorter breaks. So are you in support of, I guess, of these shorter quarters staying with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. You have to ask the AFL why they've carried that through. I suppose we started with round 1, and I know the integrity of the season is difficult to challenge because there's been so much variable change. But you'll have to ask the AFL on that one. In terms of us, I'm not sure if it's an advantage or disadvantage. For someone like Andrew Gaff, he's not happy. But if it's someone like Nick, he's pretty happy. So there's a balance for us. We'll have to change, I think, a little bit some of our strategic play that we do, like most clubs. And Nick being a unique player who plays on shorter minutes, no doubt it affects the second ruck selection as well and what we do with that. So time will tell if it works for us, but it's an AFL directive that we can't control. Speaking
to a couple of players that said that they came off the ground feeling significantly fresher than they would, even after round 1, which you wouldn't normally hear. So is that taken away from something that's always been part of the game? You get to the 4th quarter, it's a struggle, it's a battle. Is that changing the game significantly?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, the fact is, I think the AFL thought the season was going to be pretty compressed. So I think it's great players finish the game and pull up well. I mean, I think we all appreciate that in terms of what we're going to get. We want our best players playing. So I suppose maybe the AFL are thinking about that. They're thinking about, we don't quite know how the season's going to look. And if we have to compress things and we go back to a full-length game, we're sort of stuck. So this keeps it, the 16-minute quarters plus time, and keeps it available to have a 5-day break, and you can pull up a little bit better if you have to do that. I know we've got one in the first 4 weeks. So if the season or the game was as long as it was last year, I think we'd be quite concerned. But the ability to pull up a little bit better, you might see, if it happens long term, I suppose you might see players play for longer. And we all like that. I'm a little bit different than most. I think the more rotations, the better. The more scoring you'll get. So the rotations stay at 90, which is good as well. So interesting to see what kind of footy we get.
So, Simo, can we have a line on the Gold Coast, and will you get a chance to get onto Metricon once or twice before you play?
Yeah, Barra, we're working on that with the Gold Coast, and we've got on round one. We'll get up there early in the week, so hopefully we'll get a main session somewhere. Metricon have got 3 ovals. Obviously the main one, they've got another oval with lights on it as well. So they've been very, very kind to us, the Gold Coast, in terms of helping us out with training venues and gyms and all those things. So yeah, we'll be using one of the ovals at some stage, and we'll come second to their training session. But in the first week in particular, we can get on a Metricon. I dare say that'll be every week.
Adam, there's still no real certainty, I guess, around the length of time you're going to have to be interstate with. I guess the Premier still not budging on any of the border restriction stuff. Are you concerned that after the first 4 weeks you might have to stay longer or potentially move to Victoria if you can't come home and play footy? Yeah,
we don't want to be doing that. I think that's probably the biggest concern we have on a personal note, just how long we're going to go for. How do you organise that logistically as well? So ideally it's 4 weeks and we're back here and the border gets lifted, or there's some sort of hub situation over here. We understand that's hard to give us a definitive line in the sand on that, but yeah, that's the biggest thing that probably our players and staff are grappling with, the anxiety of we don't want to be there for the whole year, and I don't think that's fair on anyone. I think everyone agrees on that. But if it's 4 or 5 weeks and we've got to do the right thing for the competition, bring it on. So as quick as we can get a decision on return date for our families, the better for us. But it is what it is at the moment. We understand we can't get a proper answer for a few weeks.
You think you, Simo, will get an answer on that, and are you going to try and push to get an answer, because you don't want to be there for 4 and then still waiting to hear what the next move is?
Yeah, well, we'll get one. I don't think they're deliberately holding off. I think they're working through, and some of it we can't control. I mean, the governments are doing what they're doing. They're trying to. It looks like we're trying to eradicate the COVID-19 in this state, and that's that's the government's direction. So we just got to work with what we've got, and if we can get some direction in terms of maybe we can get back here for a hub and teams can come over here. I'm sure there's some planning going on in that space, but until we get closer to the mark of when we have to return, we won't know. So we're patient, but we're also in a bit of a rush with that.
They say, Simo, that they're going to announce the next 2 games after round 3. Would you like a decision by then to know what's happening?
Oh, well, if they're going to do it then, we'll know, won't we, Barry? I think we'll know maybe a little bit before that. Hopefully the club can do some planning. So it's a logistical nightmare to try and organise everything. So, yeah, like I said, I think they'll have something in play in the next couple of weeks for us, even if it's just a rough date, and then we can work on that.
Is Jared Cameron a legitimate chance for round 2? Has he done enough after that virus stress sort of in the pre-season?
No, hasn't done enough yet. So he's just getting back into training now. So he had his first full session today. So he's got a bit of work to do to be available. So no, not yet.
No, just back on the boys that are travelling, when do you want a decision from your players as to whether they want to go, in particular, say, will you leave it up until a few days before, or do you want a decision for your planning sooner?
No, I'm not in a rush. I think there's we've got another 10 days, so maybe by the end of the week, mate. But I'm not. It's the end of the week today, but maybe by the end of next week. you know, we're not talking. We're talking one or two players that haven't given a final decision. So I think for the most part, everyone's in and we're ready to go. And then just a couple of guys need to get a few things in order before they give me a final answer. So, and that's the same with our staff. I don't think every staff member will want to go either. So we've got to work through what their wishes are, and really enthused by the attitude of our whole club for what's happened in the last 8 to 10 weeks and our attitude to the whole thing. So that hasn't changed in the last couple of days, and I'm sure we'll be fine in the next week or two.